Richard Johnson started an online job site in the 1990s, eventually selling it to Yahoo for close to $500 million. Since then, he moved to Wilmington, started the nature conservation nonprofit Masonboro.org, and he owns a live oak tree farm and a boat manufacturing facility. Richard has recently been buying up buildings in downtown Burgaw and leading an effort to help revitalize the community with a project called Burgaw Now. Richard also threw out his back 2 days ago, but he is here with us today. He will be holding the podium probably most of the time. But please join me in welcoming Richard to talk with us about hacking humanity.
It's never easy. Good morning, and thank you to the Wilmington Business Journal for hosting this and for all of you to come. And it is a hard act to follow. You know, since moving to Wilmington, there's been two companies or two organizations that have completely blown me away in their success. The first is Live Oak Banks, and the second is Glow Academy. It's just amazing what they've done. You know, when I went there and I saw their campus, it just blew me away. And if you have not been to their campus, you should go. You should run. You should see what's possible. And there's a common theme, you know, in today's talks, and I think I'm going to continue that theme in terms of what we can do for community and how we can build communities and what are the building blocks for that. I'm not sure hacking humanity is the exact word I wanted to use, but you know, how do we get people to do what they do? I mean, you're born with certain knowledge, you're born with a certain, you know, what do you know and what do you learn? And you know, your children, they grow up, they're taught by you, you know, they're taught by their peers, they're taught by their community, and they learn these things as they grow. And what influences that is, you know, religion. You know, where you're born affects what religion you believe in. Is that, is that just circumstance, or is that the community they grow up in? You know, how do we get people to do? I mean, look at the influence of states. You know, the Great Wall of China, the pyramids, all these things were, you know, getting tons of people to do these, you know, what is an amazing thing. Now, how they were forced to do it isn't amazing, but you know, getting you know, humanity hundreds of years working on a project, or you know, thousands and thousands of people, you know, what drives that? And you know, today, more recently, you know, when you look at creating tasks, you know, getting a man to the moon, you know, we did that because the Russians sent somebody into space. We were threatened as a community, as a nation. You know, it was tribalism, and we focused on an impossible task. And we worked hard, and we got that first step on the moon, and that's some achievement that is just unbelievable. And you know, now you see how businesses are sort of focusing on what's the next great thing, and how can we get tens of thousands of people to work on a single problem, multiple companies. What's the benefit to our, you know, world, our community, to get a 5G network? It will change all of our lives when this happens. So I want to talk about branding and marketing, and you know what people are born with and what they learn. Coke is probably the most ubiquitous brand in the world. You know, I think probably 95 to 99% of the world knows this brand. How did it happen? They weren't born with it. You know, how was humanity hacked that every single one of us know what this can of Coke is? And you know, and how do we each do that? Well, we look. Sorry, I'm having a hard time in pain here, but what is the DNA in you know, each of us that causes us to learn? What are the behavior things? What drives us? If you think about, you know, and as a marketer and as somebody, you know, I know all of us have, or those of us who have tried to build companies, we think about our customers and we think about how to get clients, and we think, how do we change the world with our company? And you know, we have to understand this a little bit, how we get people to do, you know, to buy our products, to believe in us, and to support us. And you know, is it just forcing them to do it, like maybe the states and the pyramids, Or is it something that we tap into each individual's sort of desire? And when I think about this, I think about, three moms on a corner talking, the 3-year-old squirmy son holding onto the mom's hand. He breaks away, runs out into the street, and a truck is coming down the road. The construction worker across the street drops everything, sprints, picks a little kid up, and saves his life. What is in his DNA that makes him do that? Well, I think marketers, like Coke, have understood this and have looked at what is the behavioral patterns of people that you can, plug into and inspire them and get them to do, these, wonderful things like 5G networks and getting to the moon, or in this case, buying your product. Well, in my case, I've faced this a couple of times. And I feel like I've gotten a pretty good understanding of marketing. And when I was building this company, hotjobs.com, I was self-funding it, I was growing it, and we were losing. We were number 6, and in the world of the internet back then, if you weren't 1 or 2, you were toast. And so I was putting, all this money in every month, and I was trying to build this company, and we were losing. And at some point when you're not winning, you have to look at yourself and say, how much more can I take and how much more can I invest if I'm going to fail? And so I was at that abyss. I was looking over the ledge. I was thinking of closing the company. And that's when I had the idea to run a Super Bowl ad. And, it just came to me in a flash. I was on a train driving, coming home, and I said, I'm going to run a Super Bowl ad. At that point, that was heresy. We would be the first company to advertise on television. Only 9% of the population was on the internet, had internet access. So you're in effect advertising to 91% of the people, weren't even online. I got hate mail. The internet people were like, how could you run an ad on TV? Buy our banner ads, support us. We're trying to build these companies, and you're running an ad on television. And then, it's you have to listen to your instinct. And to me, it was just an obvious thing. We didn't have enough money to run lots of ads. So I said to my ad agency, it's got to be big. It's got to be huge. It's got to make a huge impact. And perhaps it was maybe a little too edgy because Fox rejected it and said it was tasteless. And it really wasn't in retrospect, but that hurt us. And how do you make lemons from lemonade or lemonade from lemons? I called Stuart Elliott from the New York Times, and I said, Fox just rejected our ad. And hey, Rob, can I get a glass of water? Fox just rejected our ad. And he said he never really supported Silicon Alley. He was, and so he said, so what? And so I called Sally Beatty at the Wall Street Journal. And, I thought the story was that Fox rejected our ad. She looked at it as the smallest company in the history of the Super Bowl to run an advertisement. We had about $4 million in revenue. It was going to cost us about $2 million to run the ad. She was like, what are you, crazy? And, and so we, so she ran this whole story about us, and that resulted in just an avalanche of stories. We got over 800 printed stories about hot jobs. We were covered more than the 2 teams playing in the Super Bowl for the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. We had over 135, news interviews on television. And basically, we went from the 270th most recognized brand on the internet to the 6th most recognized brand within like a 3-week period. It was just an unbelievable experience of brand creation. And, so I looked at that, and, I was just, getting basically the hate mail and doing this. And what did I do different? One of the other things I did different was my ad agency, when I was getting all these requests for interviews, they said, can we see the ad? And I'm like, sure. The ad agency was going to quit over that because that just wasn't done. You just don't do that. No one has ever let the media see your ad before you publish it. Now everybody does that because, as it turns out, I only had enough money to run the ad once. So if the media was going to run it 100 times, why not let them do it too? And the next year, 17 .coms ran ads as a result of the success that we had for running that ad. So it's just incredible when you think the impact that you can have or an idea that you have and bring it to vision. I want to say another perfect example of hacking humanity is what Glow Academy's done and what Rob has done. And I remember sitting with him and him talking about, I'm going to start this business journal. And I was like, wow, we don't have one of those. And through sheer will and perseverance and selling the idea, we're all here today. That is hacking humanity. That is the amazing, I mean, it's just unbelievable, Rob. So, so taking those lessons, and as I said, we got tremendous amount of publicity. And so then I moved to Wilmington. And, I live across the waterway from Masonboro Island. And I look at that, and, in 2008, there was some talk about possibly closing the island. They were trashing on the 4th of July. And, then in 2009, there was, they even said, it's not a playground, we will close it if we have to. It was like, shame on, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. We started Masonboro.org, to preserve public access and protect the island's ecosystem. And we were like, how do we, thank you, thank you. And, but if you want the community support on something like that, you got to create awareness, you got to create a brand. There's no accident that everybody's wearing a red shirt. There's no accident that we have a simple logo. And if you have a good story, and it's certainly easy, and in Hot Job's case it was, if there's a viral story and something, hey, we're saving the island, we're cleaning up, people had heard about the trashed island, it's easy to sell. But as a result of, sort of basic principles in marketing, we were able to get over 35 stories so far, maybe 40 stories written about us. We've been interviewed dozens of times on the television. I would suspect that most of you out there know, what Masonboro.org is. And, I hope some of you know that we're I think it's closer to 2,000 fifth graders in New Hanover County that we're sending them every year. And so super proud of creating this. And, it's 10 years old. More recently, I bought a farm in Burgaw. And, as I went into the city to get coffee and see what was there, I was just amazed that there were all these empty buildings, although they do have a very good coffee shop. Brown Dog Coffee is one of my favorites. And so I go into Brown Dog and, get coffee and just walk around and say, what great bones. It's only 20 miles from Wilmington. Why is this city not happening? And, over a couple of years, it actually took about 4 years, and I was walking down the town about a year ago, actually, in November last year with my daughter, and she's just like, this town is beautiful. And it just hit me. This is going to happen. This town is on the precipice of, finally, it's so close to Wilmington. You look at different towns and how they make it. Kinston, obviously, is its own success story, and you look at the history of that. Well, if you look at Burgaw, it's got so many ingredients that it's really just going to happen. And so we look at the Blueberry Festival, and again, another brand creation, another hacking community. They were like, how do we get people to Burgaw? Let's create this Blueberry Festival. And, this year, 40,000 people came in on that Saturday to go to the Blueberry Festival. So, so I bought up, as he mentioned, I bought some buildings in the town. And I was like, okay, I'm starting, and we've got some of the people here. We've got Jay Cranchok from, who's going to start Fat Daddy's Pizza. And we got Robin and Art Hill, who's going to start Burgaw Brewing Company. And so we have these companies that are going to come in. We're going to create some, purpose or focal in the downtown. But how are we going to get people to come? You can probably get some average, you can probably get somebody to write a story that you're starting a brew pub. Maybe even that there's a brew pub coming and that the brew pub opened. But, 6 months later, you're not going to get, how's the brew pub doing? You're just not going to get that much press or media attention on, a single effort. But if you look at the whole, system, as they were talking about in collective impact, how do we help this whole town? And that was the idea of Burgaw now. It's like, how do we revitalize this town? How do we promote all the businesses in downtown? And how do we create art? And how do we bring some focal points so people come to this beautiful downtown, on a Saturday, walk around and see how good it is. And so, that's the kind of the idea. And as a result of starting that, again, it's not just luck, but we have gotten tremendous amount of attention already for this effort. And and fortunately, the Wilmington Business Journal wrote a story the Friday before the Blueberry Festival, and that certainly helped. But when I go into Burgaw and we did this, it's amazing. I tapped into something. I've done a lot of things in marketing, but I tapped into something that I've never really experienced before, and that was hardcore tribalism. The people in Burgaw love their town. They love their community. And when we started this effort and started talking about it, the viral, usually viral, marketing happens online or in news stories or, through media. I've never seen it happen through word of mouth, person to person, the Burgaw pipeline, as quickly as it did, this time. And it's just, if you go down there, people are like, oh yeah, we're doing, and there's, I sense this, they were always a proud community, but it seems like they're even more proud than ever because they know that people are investing in them and they see it. They see it's going to happen. And so, I'm going to conclude with, if you'd like to go to Burgaw, and check it out. Here are some people, the planning director would love to show you around. The mayor, who's here today, Pete, would love to show you around, or we would love to show you around. And just give us a shout out on email and come up to Burgaw, and thank you.